URC semi-final number 2, it's Munster, the holders, the top seeds against Glasgow, who are coming to town knowing that they beat Munster the last time they were at Thomond Park and playing for a chance in the final. We know that if Munster win, they will play the final at Thomond Park, not at the Gaelic Sports Stadium in Cork. They'll play it at home, which means, that atmosphere for the final would be wild. Only 18,000 tickets. Those tickets would be like hen's teeth. But Glasgow are not just going to roll over, and they've got a full international pack coming to town and a lot of quality behind the scrum as well. This is going to be an absolute belter. It's a 6 o'clock kickoff UK and Ireland time on Saturday evening. I am actually at a rugby function, I'm going to a dinner on Saturday night, which means I'm going to have to be sort of watching on the sly on my phone. So I'll get a video out when I can after that, but enjoy the game and hit subscribe on the channel as well. Give your thoughts down below. How do you see this one going? I have revised my combined 23-man squad that I did the other day, now that the teams have been announced, because there have been some really interesting selection calls made, and that has changed my thinking on the combined team, where the strengths are, and what it might mean for how this game goes down. And I really want to know what you think, Munster fan, if you're a Munster fan right now, about the selection, which looks to me very much like a bomb squad selection. Does it not look like that to you? Look at that bench. It is absolutely stacked. With R.G. Snyman, World Cup winner, on the bench. And with Kendellen, with Jaeger, with Barron. That is, Conor Murray. That's not a surprise to see him on the bench, but it's definitely a surprise to see R.G. Snyman on the bench. The real, on the positive side, in the starting 15, Alex Nankivell was back and fit. Graham Rowntree said that earlier in the week. He's throwing him straight back in. That centre matchup, Nankivell and Frisch have been so good this season. And Tuipulotu and Hugh Jones, we know how good they are for club and country. And in Nankivell and Tuipulotu, they've got two guys that were named officially in the URC team of the season. By all the people that voted on it, they were the two. So just that midfield matchup looks absolutely awesome. There is no Calvin Nash. That's the downside in the starting 15 for Munster. So Simon Zebo shifts across to the wing. Mike Haley comes in. Mike Haley's just safe as houses fullback in some respects. In a semi-final, when you know it's going to be tight and tense, Mike Haley, someone who's just a rock at the back. It's not a bad shout. And in the pack, no R.G. Snyman and Gavin Coombs also on the bomb squad, in the bomb squad, with Jack Donoghue starting. Jack Donoghue, excellent. Gavin Coombs has been playing out of his skin. And tell me, as I say, that looks to me like it is a deliberate ploy to finish the game with the strongest 15 on the pitch. It worked for South Africa, in the pack at least. It worked for South Africa. That's very much how they play it, and that's why I said bomb squad, because it feels like a South African move. Munster have got a good starting pack, but you imagine they're going to finish the match with their strongest pack. And in a semi-final, that could be a risk. It could be an inspired selection. Which one of those two do you think is more likely to be the case? I understand it, but does it open the door a little bit for Glasgow to get a bit of confidence and maybe get on top and build a platform? That's the big question. It's definitely a risk, but I think we've seen more and more as games have been played. Rugby is a 23-man game. It's not about the 15 that start. And South Africa completely revolutionised this thinking that the best player is the one that's in the 1 to 15 shirts and the second best player is on the bench. Not necessarily the case. It definitely isn't the case with this Munster selection. As for Glasgow, only one enforced change, and that was on the bench. Macbeth, HIA, so he's unavailable. Kebble shifts across to a loosehead prop, but it's a completely unchanged starting 15 and an all-international pack for Glasgow. They were excellent against the Stormers last week. It was a really bad first half quality-wise, loads of errors on both teams and not a lot of cutting edge, but it was the defensive energy that Glasgow brought that made the difference for them. And the difference is you've taken Coombs and Snyman, two massively physical specimens, out of the Munster pack, and Glasgow have got an all-international pack starting. And that man, Richie Gray, this is exactly it crystallised, the selection choices, and why I find it so interesting. Because Max Williamson on the bench, very good young player. Richie Gray, massively experienced. And Glasgow are going to be finishing the game with Max Williamson, this young guy. Munster are starting Fineen Wycherley in the second row, their young guy, and they're going to be finishing with World Cup winner R.G. Snyman. knockout matches quite often go down to the wire. If that's the case, I start to understand the picture. If Graham Rowntree isn't sure RG Snyman can play a full 80 minutes, then having him on the pitch to finish, Richie Gray being off and a youngster being opposite him, you start to see how this game could play out. It's really interesting, really is. And you see it even more so when you look at a combined team, which I have changed from the one I did the other day, and I'd love to know what you think about this. So the other day it was much more balanced. I think there were 4 and 4 in the pack, but with the changes that Munster have made, 6 players. If I had, and tell me what you would do if you had access to all Glasgow's 23, all Munster's 23, who would you pick? Picking them together, and I've gone for 6 out of the 8 forwards for Glasgow, which starts to build a picture that Glasgow might fancy it early on. I think they need to be ahead on the hour mark. I think Glasgow have to be ahead because look at the bench. I've gone for an entire 8-man Munster bench. Would you do any different? Tell me in the comments. And there you go. I think that could be the game. The starting pack for Glasgow, the finishing pack for Munster. It's really, really interesting, this one. In terms of the back line, half-backs, an easy pick. 2 of the back 3 I went for Munster. I've still stuck with the Glasgow centre pairing. Nankervel and Tuipulotu would have been my choice, but Nankervel's just coming back from injury. These two play all the time with each other. I'm so fascinated to see how this one goes. Do you think I've got my assessment right there, or am I off the mark? Tell me what you think, because I think this could be closer, will be closer than the Bulls v Leinster possibly. Obviously, the altitude in Pretoria is going to be a big factor. Just the matchups on the field are so interesting with this one, and there is a lot of history, niggle, attitude between these two teams, a lot of respect, but there's going to be no quarter given, no punches pulled, and no love lost, and I cannot wait. Bring it on. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. Enjoy the rugby. Hit subscribe on the channel. I'll see you on the next one.